Yo, hi everyone. So, a couple of days ago, I recorded this video all about how to record drums. How to mix drums. And I actually found it really fun. And I thought, you know what? Maybe I can take this a step further and really start making some content for YouTube. And maybe just do it for my own enjoyment. I don't care if anyone's listening or not. I hope you are. But yeah, so today I want to talk about recording drums and how I record drums. I record a lot of drums here at my studio. I'm a drummer myself. And I just find it so fun. I think it's the best part of recording, mainly because it's so hard to get right and there's so much to do. And I think it's probably the most creative part of recording, because there's just so much to know and so much to learn. And at every single stage of the process, there's just limitless ways you could go. But I found a formula that I sort of like here. And I want to talk about recording rock drums specifically. And so before I get into the actual recording, I want to talk about this process that I've sort of developed over the past 5 or 6 years. And I've broken it down into 8 steps. So yeah, let's do it. Step 1, you've got to have an idea of the sound that you want to achieve. So in this example, we're going to be recording rock drums. You know, if someone turned up and said, hey, you know, let's record some rock drums, and they had like, I don't know, a SpongeBob kit and some paste rude cymbals, I'd be like, well, no, that's not going to work. You know, we have to have an idea of what we want to sound like. We have to have a vision and a goal. So before anyone turns up, or before I even sometimes meet my clients, I'll say to them, look, like, what do you want to achieve? What sound do you want? And you know, so I will say, look, are there any records that you've listened to, or any reference tracks that you might have? Like, you know, what do you want to sound like, or what do you want to draw inspiration from? That's the biggest question. This part, I can sort of compare it to a jigsaw puzzle. So what's the first thing you do when you get a jigsaw puzzle? You start with the outside, don't you? The outside of the square, because every piece that has a straight edge, you go, oh, okay, well, that's part of the outside. And that's exactly what we're doing here. We're starting to build a picture. We're starting to build an image of what we want and what we want everything to sound like. So I don't want to say we're boxing it in, but we're creating, we've got a space to work with now. We know where we should be punching, sort of thing, you know. So yeah, step 1 is have an idea of the sound that you want to achieve, at least an idea. Step 2, have a good drummer. You can't polish a turd. You can roll it in glitter, but it's still a turd. Having a good drummer it's essential. Honestly, like I said, you can't polish a turd. It's as simple as that. And I don't really want to spend much time on this because it's obvious. But yeah, just get a good drummer that knows their parts, that can balance a kit in the room and play well, play tight. Someone that hasn't, someone that has at least learnt the song really well. It helps, believe me. It's obvious, but you'd be surprised how much I miss having a good drummer sometimes to record. And being a drummer myself, I don't know if it's particularly sort of daunting for some people to come record here because I'm a drummer, but I don't know. Have a good drummer or be a good drummer. That's step 2. Step 3, you've got to choose your drums and choose your cymbals. You've got to give yourself a palette to work with. You know, like, is your SJC custom kit and paste rude cymbals gonna fit the right vibe for a jazz record? Well, absolutely fucking not. Like, it's not gonna work, is it? So you've got to give yourself a palette to work with, and that's gonna be suitable for the song and for the mix. It's like if you're gonna cook lasagna, you wouldn't buy cumin, tofu, and blackberry jam. You know, you would buy tomatoes and basil and maybe some beef and garlic, you know, because those are all ingredients that fit that recipe. And that's exactly what we're doing here. We're not making lasagna. We're using that concept to apply it to music. So, yeah. In other words, our ingredients or instruments need to complement one another. And everything has to just blend together nicely to make a tasty meal. Mix. So in our example, we want to record a rock tune. Let's say this client has turned up, we've had a chat, and we decided we want to go for like a Foo Fighters, balls to the wall, rock vibe. So let's start looking at some drums. So I've got a few drum kits here. I've got a Pearl reference kit. It's like a 10-ply maple mahogany thing. It's a great kit. It's the first proper kit I got. It's great for funk and some pop stuff, but it's not for rock. Like, using this kit on this particular recording would be like putting mayonnaise on your Rice Krispies. Bad times. You know, we're not looking for mayonnaise and Rice Krispies. We're looking for sauce, man. You know, we're making lasagna, remember? We're looking for tomatoes, that kind of thing. So I've got a 1974 Ludwig Super Classic. Just felt my dick move. And it's a legendary kit, and it's got that deep, tubby, fat sound. It's not too resonant. All the shells are 4-ply mahogany, so, you know, the thinner the shell, the deeper the tone of the drum, and that's what we're really looking for here, man. So we're probably going to use this Ludwig. I've also got a Pearl Forum. Now, I think I just heard all the gear snobs shit themselves and scream a little bit. But here's the truth. It sounds better than the Ludwig kick. I know. I'm just using the kick drum, by the way, from this Pearl Forum. I'm not using the toms. I'm going to use the toms from the Ludwig Super Classic, and I'm going to use the kick from this Pearl. But here's the thing. It doesn't have to be expensive to sound good. It just has to sound good. And this kick drum is 22 inches. It's made from cheap wood, but the shells are really thin, and it's actually a bit deeper than the Ludwig kick. So I'm going to mix and match this time, and it's going to serve the song better. It's going to make the lasagna taste much better. That's what we've got to bear in mind here, guys. Okay, step 4, choosing heads. Heads are really important. You ever recorded a bass or a guitar with old strings? It's the same for drums and heads. Having new heads is great, but having maybe some like Remo heads that are worn in is even better. And I think that applies across the whole spectrum of recording, any kind of genre that you're playing in. For me personally, heads that I've had about a week's worth of playing on them just seem to sound better than brand new heads, but whatever, it's open to interpretation. But yeah, here are some things that you need to think about. So thinner heads, like 1-ply heads, are going to be higher in pitch, and they're going to have a longer sustain. And it's the opposite for the opposite. So if we've got, you know, coated heads that are 2-ply, it's going to have a really deep tone and less resonance. And, you know, we're not recording a fusion record here. We're going to be recording some rock drums, balls to the wall, remember. So on the Ludwig, I've got 2-ply coated heads, top and bottom on the toms. It's just got that real thump and no real boinginess to it. There's no resonance. That's what we want. We want thuddy stuff. For the kick, maybe we want it a little bit more open. So I think I've got a P4 coated on there. And we might go easy on the dampening maybe, but we'll get to that in a sec. So yeah, choosing heads. Yeah, important stuff. Step 5, tuning and dampening. So we've got a lasagna sauce. It's in the pan. It's cooking away. It's smelling good. It's nice and fragrant, and it's really starting to come together. Someone comes in and pours some coffee into the sauce. What do? You throw up everywhere because that shit is disgusting. If we went for a high tuning on this record, that's what we would be doing. We'd be pouring coffee into our lovely lasagna. It's not what we want. We don't want coffee. We want red wine in the sauce. That's what we want. Because it's going to taste good and it's going to complement everything else. What is red wine? It's a deep, rich flavor. How do you get a deep, rich flavor from drums? I'll tell you how. You record your drums. So you tune your drums at a super low tuning. That's what we want for this rock record. We want larger than life, just gargantuan sounding toms. Proper, girthy, mate. That's what we want. So we're gonna tune our toms deep for this one. What else is there to say? Dampening. So this is like part 2 of part 5. So that lasagna's cooking. It's got the red wine in there. It's time to season. So dampening is a lot like seasoning, because if you put too much salt and pepper in your lasagna, it's game over, man. You've killed it. You've literally just ruined it. All that hard work you put in, because you can't take that out. Dampening is kind of the same. If we've spent all this time, planning the sound that we want, we've found a great drummer, we've picked an amazing sounding drum kit, we've tuned it really well, and then you slap 5 moon gels on the rack tom. You've just fucked it, mate. That, like I said, we're going for a sound that doesn't want much resonance, but we want to hold on to those fundamentals that make up the tone of the drum. We still want tone from the drum. We want like a boom kind of thing. We want to actually hear a note from the drum. But we don't want to hear overtones, and we don't want to have too much resonance. So this is where dampening can come in handy. In this scenario, I'm using gaffer tape and a towel. It just works. It just works really well. It looks awful. But we're not doing this for the visual aspects. We're trying to make a drum kit sound great. And there's other things you can do, like moon gel and stuff like that. I think I'm using some on the snare. There's a thing called a snare weight up there, which is really great. That's a really cool little guy. And you've got things like the big fat snare drum. I think they can work well in certain situations. They're not always my favorite, but whatever. In fact, there's a friend of mine called Toby Partridge. He's an absolute wizard when it comes to tuning drums and dampening. I think I'm going to include a little clip here from his Instagram because it's great, man. I'll let the clip do the talking. So here it is. So yeah, go head over to his Instagram page, follow him. He's a sick drummer. He's a funny bastard as well. So yeah, follow that guy on Instagram. Okay, this brings us to step 6. This is the big bit. This is the big boy bit. This is the big boy bit. It's the bit everyone's been waiting for. Mic choice and positioning. So obviously there's a million different ways to record drums. And it's all very subjective. But this video is titled How I Record Drums. So this is how I do things, and this is how I would approach like a rock recording. And of course, as always, I'm open to hearing your criticisms and tips. Because if what I'm saying is marmalade, I need to know. You know, I can't be putting shit information out there. But I honestly do believe that this is a pretty solid way to mic up a rock drum kit. So here we go. I've got my channel list here. I've got, what have I got here? I've got 3 kick mics. So I've got a kick in, a kick out, and a front of kick mic. Snare top, bottom, rack, floor, overheads, hats, all the sort of stuff you would expect to see. Sorry, I'm just deleting some stuff from my notes here. So yeah, why have I mic'd it up this way? Okay, let's start with the kick. So for me, a kick drum is made up of 3 sounds. The first sound is the sound of the beater hitting the head. That's going to give you the click and attack. The second part is the air and the body of the drum, the lower mid-range, the thump, if you will. And the third is the sub, so the lower frequencies. So for my kick-in mic, which is a Shure Beta 91, that's going to give me all the slap. It's a boundary mic which sits inside the kick just on a pillow, and it's facing the batter head. So that's literally just picking up all the attack. Kick out is a Beta 52, beta or beta, whatever. And that's placed just outside the sound hole on the outside, the resonant head of the kick. So that's putting some air between the beater and the mic, which is kind of what I was talking about before. That air and thump is really going to come from that area, because all that air, and this is a 22-inch kick drum by 18, and that every time that beater hits, it's moving a lot of air, and it's all being pushed through this hole. So that's going to be the sound of the air moving, and it's so hard to explain. When we start doing the sound check, I'll explain it to you then. And the front of kick, Aston Spirit, is getting a little bit of that air as well, actually. It's picking up some resonance, but it's also picking up a lot of sub. We'll talk about how I process that when I get my drummer in here in just a bit. Okay, snare top, Beta 57. I like this mic. I just bought it recently. The reason why I'm using it is because it has great rejection, and well, that's pretty much it. It sounds good and it rejects hi-hats really well. I might usually ask, a drummer to perhaps move his hi-hats up a little bit, because some guys like to have their hats really low. Fortunately, our drummer today isn't one of those guys, and I think he's gonna take the criticism well. He's a good lad. Moving on to snare bottom, it's a 441. I feel really bad for using this mic for snare bottom, because snare bottom for me is like the joke of all audio channels. It's totally necessary, but it's like, oh, snare bottom. It's not like an overhead mic, which is cool sounding. It's like the runt of the litter. It's really hard to explain. And this mic, this 441, is a great mic, man. And it's an expensive mic too. It's like £700 or £800. So it seems a shame to just put it there, but it does sound good there. Yeah, positioning wise, it's just sort of at the same angle as the snare top. I tend to find you don't need to flip the phase as much in this position as well. Depends on the depth of the snare and stuff like that. But we'll come to that in the next section. Rack tom, 421, just classic 421. Yeah, just pointing at the center of the drum. I'm trying to sort of angle it in a way that it's not going to pick up too much crash. Again, cymbal bleeding toms can be an issue. So I usually ask drummers to raise their crashes up a little bit. Most will be happy with that. Floor tom, same thing. Nothing crazy going on here. Hats. Okay, so let's talk about hi-hats. So hi-hats are a tricky one, I think. they often don't sound good mic'd up. So you have to be careful where you place them. And for me, micing a hi-hat, my sort of approach changes every day. I'll try something new all the time. But in this scenario, something that I do actually always do, tell a lie, something that I do actually always do is I'll always sort of try and aim, in this example, the KM184. You'll be able to see from the photo that I'll put up. I'm trying to aim it at the hi-hat and get the hi-hat to block out the snare. So the hat is almost acting as like a shield from the snare. Because I want to minimize the snare bleed in there. Because it's not a direct signal. The snare needs to be strong, and you don't really want this phasey, weird, delayed version of it. So trying to get the snare out of there as much as possible is super important for me. And yeah, with the hats, I'll point it at the place, the area of the hi-hat that's been played with the tip of the stick, because I want to use that hi-hat mic for articulation later, just to really make it defined. Okay, overheads. This is a lot of fun. I'm using Cole's 4038s here. Cole's 4038s are the best thing I've ever bought. They're my favorite mics. They're not exactly a desert island mic, but they just have so much vibe. They're just full of character, and they're great for overheads. My live room is pretty lively, and so the overheads do end up sounding a bit roomy sometimes, but I don't really mind that. And yeah, these are a figure of 8 pattern mic, so you might need to be careful with that depending on where you are, but in this scenario, they're going to work great. Another reason why I love to use Coles on overheads is because they take EQ really well, especially in the sort of 12 to 13K region. If you boost that with like an API 550, you're in love, man. Or yeah, even use like the 40K band on a Marg EQ. They just take it and they respond so smoothly. They're not harsh at all. Great on overheads. Lovely mics. Okay, rooms. Excuse me. Room mics. Okay, so I've got 2 sets of stereo rooms here. Well, yeah, two stereo rooms and 2 monos. Technically 2 monos. But let's start with the first set of stereos. So these Aston Spirits, large diaphragm condenser. They're going to be in cardioid. I usually place these sort of like 3 meters away from the kick drum. So if kick's here, they'll be here and here. Equidistant, because I want the phase relationship to be good. Usually what I'll do actually before I even commit any of this to take is I'll just record a bit of the drum kit and check the phase relationship with anything, but we'll come to that in a bit. So yeah, that'll be a space pair. I'll position them close to the floor, not pointing at the floor. They'll be pointing at the kit, because I want a direct signal from these room mics. I want it to be as if I'm facing the kit. That's what I want from these. I want them to be my ears in the room. So yeah, it's all just about, making sure that they're equidistant from one another, and you've measured that with a tape measure. The phase relationship is good. I forgot to say as well, actually, with the overheads, you've got to make sure that they're in phase with the snare too. I think there's a picture right here that I can show you where I've used a tape measure to measure the distance of one overhead and make sure it's exactly the same to the center of the snare. Even though I'm going to be ducking that snare out of that overhead signal with a compressor later, it still needs to be in phase. Okay, second pair of room mics. Now this is where the party is, man. This is where it gets exciting. So in my room, I'm quite lucky that it's pretty big. I mean, it's big, but it's not Abbey Road Studio 1. Studio A rather. It's a living room in a house. The ceilings are like 9 foot or something like that. So it's pretty tall. But yeah, the great thing is where my kit's positioned in the far corners of the room, I've placed some Beyerdynamic M160s. And that's catching reflections. And the reason why I like putting them in the corners is because low frequencies tend to gather in the corners of rooms. And so you get a really fat sound from these room mics. It almost feels as though the kick drum's closer than it is, but it's just because all that bass frequency is collecting in those areas. And now these actually aren't equidistant from the kick, which a lot of people might say is bad. But again, like these things are, you might end up with a bit more kick or snare in one than the other, but they're going to be smashed with a compressor. And so that initial hit is going to be ducked out, and then what you're left with is this really beautiful stereo image of the room. It's going to make the tom sound really wide, and the snare, man, just wait till you hear it. You'll see what I mean. So yeah, maybe I need some feedback on those mics. But I think they sound pretty good. And when I've recorded drums here and used that technique and sent them elsewhere, I've never had any negative feedback. In fact, it's all been positive. So you don't always need to be militant with the way you record mics. It's good to experiment a little bit. Try and be musical, think musically rather than from an engineer's perspective. Okay, moving on. Mono room. This is a Neve. It's a Neumann U87. The position of this mic changes all the time. It's probably one of the only times I'll actually walk around my room and try and find the best spot. I don't really do that for the other mics because I'm fortunate enough where I can work in this studio quite a lot. So I've kind of figured out like my presets and where the room sounds best. But for this one, I always seem to struggle with it. So I'll usually just walk around a little bit, find the best spot. In this scenario, it just happened to be right between the two spirits. So I've got like a mono picture of the kick straight down the center. Finally, we've got a talkback mic. So I mainly use this to communicate with the drummer between takes, so that he can speak to me and I can hear him clearly instead of him having to put his head next to the snare mic or anything like that. Just makes the workflow side of things a little bit easier. But I also record this mic. Now this is a trick that I got from Sylvia Massey. I read her book, Recording Unhinged, which, by the way, is amazing. You should go and buy it. There's so much cool stuff in there. And so, yeah, what I'll do with this mic is I'll just saturate it, not mentally, but pretty crispy through a 1073 and then slam it through a distressor. The reason why I do that is because sometimes I'll forget to mute it, and then when the drummer plays, the volume just goes straight up because it's so high gain. But also because it sounds quite cool, and you get a bit of throat of the snare usually. It can be tricky getting that to behave phase-wise. So that is worth playing around with a little bit. Sometimes I use it in a mix, sometimes I don't. It really depends on the vibe of the tune and how I'm feeling on that particular day. Cool. Okay, so those are the 7 steps. Oh, yeah. 6 steps. We've got 2 more steps left. Right, let's do it. Let's go for it. Okay, yeah, so we've got 2 steps left. But to show you how these 2 steps work, I need a drummer. So I'm going to introduce you to my good friend Nico, Nicolas P. He's from France. He's an amazing drummer, man. Really good. I'm quite lucky to actually live with this guy. So he's very kindly offered to come and play some drums for us. So yeah, give it up for Nico. Yeah, Nico on the drums, everyone. Okay, so hi everyone. Now, this is the next step that we're going to talk about. It's processing, and I've actually got a drummer in the live room. It's called Nico, sick drummer. And what we're going to do is we're going to get him to kindly play through everything for us, and we're going to do a sound check, and then we're going to record a track, which is from a friend of his called Adrian. So yeah, it should be pretty sick. Okay, so let's get in touch with Nico. Okie dokie. Okay, Nico, can you hear me, mate?
Hello, yes.
How are you doing up there?
I'm pretty good. Just warming up.
Excellent. Sounds good, man. Are you ready to start sound checking?
Yeah, all good.
Great. Could I get some kick drum, please? Okay. So I'm going to process this kick in first down here. Sounds like a kick in. Pretty good. Let's check the phase first. So let's check it with the kick out. So what I'm going to do is just press this phase switch here to make sure that they're in phase. To my ear, it sounds a bit better out, so they sound good. Okay, we've got another kick mic, which is the front of kick, which is this guy. I'm just going to gain this up a little bit. Okay. Now I need to check the phase with this one and the kick out. Okay. Cool. Sounds good. Now, I'm just going to EQ this front of kick slightly because I want some more sub. Just going to use this API 550 here. There we go. 40. Okay, something about there. Okay, let's pull out some 500 as well. Cool, okay. Kick sounding good. I'm happy with that. Let's move on to the snare. Hey, man.
Yo.
That sounds great. Could I get some snare, please?
Okay.
Thank you very much. Okay, so snare top. Sounds good. Happy with this. There's a bit of a ring on it, but I'm not too worried about that right now. We're going to see how that sounds with the rest of the kit. Let's get some filtering going on here. Yeah, that ring is actually quite bad. So what I'm going to do first is just EQ this the way I want to. Okay, that sounded pretty good. Let's try and EQ that ring out. So it's about there. Okay, so I'm going to come back to that and I'm going to ask Nico to adjust the dampening slightly. Okay, snare bottom, let's have a look. So this is actually running through some outboard pre's, so I'm just going to adjust those settings right now. Let's check the phase. Okay, actually sounds better without, so that's pretty good. Okay, next we'll go to the toms. Hey, man.
Yes.
How you doing?
I'm really good. How are you?
Amazing, yeah. Cool, let's try the rack tom, please, bud.
Okay.
Okay, I can already see this is clipping, so I'm just going to hit a pad. I'm just going to pan this in your ears as well. Cool, there we go. That sounds great. It's super dull and just thuddy. No overtones whatsoever. That's sounding amazing already. I think I'm actually not going to really process that much at all here, actually. Maybe let's just check the mid-range. See how it sounds without. Yeah, I do sort of prefer it with that EQ, actually. Maybe we could give it a bit of top end. Let's try some 12K. Oh, that's sounding really good. Okay, so this is with the EQ. Sorry, without. This is with. I might take that 12K back a little bit. Let's try it with a shelf. Getting a lot of air and a lot of click. So maybe we should take out some 5K. Okay, let's boost this again. So that does sound a bit meatier. Let's boost 100 as well. Fuck it, let's go crazy. I like that. I like that a lot. Cool. Okay, let's get Nico to do the floor tom. Hey, man.
Yes.
Sounds amazing. Can we get the floor tom, please?
Okay.
Beautiful. Yeah, so this is clipping again, so I'm just going to pad this up here. So the reason why I love this drum kit so much is just these toms. They just, I mean, listen to that. No overtones whatsoever. I can actually hear some 500 hertz poking out already here. So I'm going to pull that out. I'm going to be quite aggressive with it as well. I also don't mind a bit of low end in my floor toms. So maybe something just like that. And let's brighten it up as well. Let's go for a 10K shelf. Oh, yeah. Lovely. So this is without the EQ. And with. Amazing. That sounds great. Cool. Okay. Hey, man.
Yes.
How you doing?
Yeah, really good. It sounds amazing up there.
Yeah.
Very comfortable.
Yeah, it's quite a nice little vibe up here. We've got the rain outside. Cool, man. So I've just got all the close mics ready.
Yeah.
So you can let loose on the whole kit if you want, because I need to sound check all the overheads and everything. So if you just want to practice whatever you want, then I'll do my thing. Probably take about 5-6 minutes, something like that.
Okay, I just keep playing then.
Yeah. Cheers, man. Cool. So let's get a balance. Let's get a balance of the close mics first. So I like the sound of this frontal kick. That sounds good. Snare top. Rack and floor are now in. That sounds good. Okay, let's pull up the overheads. Now these are going through my API 512s, which are amazing preamps. So let's do some processing. Let's start with some EQ. So straight away, I want to get rid of some low end, so I'm going to high pass up to about 250, something like that. Yeah, we're just getting rid of that lumpy low end. Now, you know me really well, so I'm going to pull out some 500 here. And about a medium sort of Q width. Okay, cool. That's sounding good. I'm gonna compress these overheads a little bit because that snare is just popping out a little bit too much for me. So let's pull up an 1176. Sorry. There we go. Quick attack, quick release. I only just want to tickle this compressor. I don't really want to be going much above 1 dB or 2. So that's looking pretty good. Now, these overheads are pretty dark right now, so let's get some EQ. Let's pull up this Marg. So let's start with 10K. Now that's sounding really nice. Super bright. Okay, let's check the phase with the snare. Oops. Okay, so I'm going to hit the polarity switch on my preamps right now. It's actually kind of hard to tell. I don't really think there's much difference. I'm going to go without flipping the phase on the overheads for now. Okay, so let's get a balance of what we've got so far. Sounding good, nice and wide. Let's go to the hats. So again, these are going through one of my SSL mic pre's. I'm just going to set the gain on this thing right now. I'm just going to get Nick to play a groove with the hats. Hey Nico, could I just get like a Billie Jean type groove on with the hi-hats, please? He's very patient. I've got to give it to him. Good lad. Okay, cool. So I'm going to high pass this a little bit. Somewhere around there. Now, what I'm also going to do is check the phase with the snare. I think it actually sounds slightly better with the phase engaged. Cool. Nice one. That's sounding good. Okay. Let's go to the room mics, the exciting bit. So these are the stereo spirits. Sounding fabulous. Now, we've got a slight sort of mismatch in the gain here. So I'm going to unlink these channels. Now let's process this one. So you know what? I like the sound of that. I don't mind that at all. Let's get the right channel up and running. Here we go. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to add... You know what? I'm going to take some gain away from this one on the left here. I want them to be peaking at about -12. Cool. Just going to rename these. Cool, so they're both equally matched now. Maybe a bit more on the right, 1 dB more. There we go. Cool, they're sounding great. Let's check the phase of the snare. Very lucky with phase today. I don't seem to be needing to hit hardly any phase switches at all. That's great. Okay, let's go for the nice M160s. Here we go. How fat do they sound? Amazing. Again, we're getting the same thing here. We're getting slightly more gain out the right channel, so I'm just gonna unlink these and pull pull the gain down on this right channel a little bit. And again, I don't need to set the gain so high on these guys because they're room mics. So they're not going to be as loud as the snare top, for example. So I don't actually need the gain to be anywhere near, you know, -9, -6. They can just sit down there, and I'm happy with that. Now, what I am going to do, actually, is I am going to boost some low end with these guys. So let's take this EQ with a shelf. Let's just see what sounds best. It's actually sounding a bit boxy, so maybe I'm going to attenuate someone. 200. Maybe we'll do something like this. Just very gentle EQing. Take some high end as well. They're ribbons, so they're dark already, but I want to take it a step further. Cool. All right. So let's just copy this over because it is a stereo channel. Match the gain. Let's check some phase with the kick this time. It definitely sounds better without. Man, we've smashed the phase today. I'm really impressed. Okay, great. And now let's go to the mono room, the U87. Okay. Again, we don't want this one to be too loud. This one is sat in between these two spirits. So maybe we should bring these up. Giving us some nice mono information. Okay, cool. Let's try that. I'm going to take some top end out of this. Somewhere about there. Because it's a mono signal, so I want the mono to be dark and the stereo stuff to be bright. So it makes more sense to do it this way. I can hear some 500. Cool. That sounded great. Let's hear it with the stereo rooms. Man, sounds great. Okay, I bet Nico's pretty bored now, so let's get him to play something a bit better. Hey, Nico.
Yes.
How you doing, bud?
Very good.
Amazing, man. Thank you for your patience. Appreciate that.
That's all right.
Cool. So I'm pretty much set here right now.
Okay.
I just need... Sorry, go on.
I'd say that was really quick.
Yeah, I'm always quick, mate. Always quick. I just need to check one more thing, and then I think we're ready to go. So,
Sweet.
Could you maybe play around the kit a little bit more?
Okay, a bit more drum fills. And,
yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Thanks, man.
Sweet.
Cool. So let's get some levels set. Oh. Okay, let's pull up some overheads. Some hi-hat. Some room mics. Oh, that's sounding fabulous. Nice. I'm really happy. So at this point, I'll sit back and listen to the speakers. I can't believe we got throughout that whole sound check without hitting one phase button. That is unprecedented. I'm impressed with myself. Cool. Okay, so let's start tracking, man. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to load up the track in Logic and I'm going to play it to Nico to see if he can hear it. So let's give him a shout. Hey Nico.
Yes.
How you feeling, man?
Very good. Very well.
Great, man. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to send you the track and the click, and I just want you to let me know if you need any more or less
Okay.
of either or. So yeah, let me know what you want.
Sweet.
So here's the click coming in for you now.
Finn, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Yeah. Could we change the sound of the click to something else, maybe?
Yeah, sure. What sort of sound do you want?
That's kind of drowning in the track a little bit.
Okay.
Like more of a high-pitched one. I don't know.
High pitched? Yeah, sure. I can do that for you. Just give me 2 seconds.
Yeah, sweet. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, so this does actually happen quite a lot with drummers. Some of them prefer to use like cowbells, that kind of thing. So the Logic stock one doesn't always do the business. So what I'm going to do here is just program one real quick. Let's get some Logic so you can hear it. Okay.
Yeah, that's nicer.
Sick. So we've got the approval from Nico.
By the
good.
way, could you get rid of that first beat as well?
Yeah, you just want four beats, no accent.
Because it's going to be a few 2/4 bars.
Ah, good shout. Is that still high pitched enough?
Could you play with a track?
Sure.
Yeah. I'll just play during the intro for the sake of setting levels, but I'm not playing until later.
Sounds good, man. No problem. What I also want to do here as well is just check in Logic.
Finn?
Now let's stop.
So I could do with a little bit more click.
Bit more click?
If it's possible.
No problem, man.
And I can actually hear the drums pretty well
Okay.
right now, so I'm not going to need much in my ears.
Amazing. Easy.
Yeah.
Amazing. Sick. Okay, cool. All right, mate. Well, should we give this track a go?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's start from the top.
Yeah, so don't worry about it. I'm not coming in until like 50 seconds or something.
Okay.
Right.
Cool. All right, man. Here we go. Okay, yeah, so at this stage, it's the first take. What I want to do is just check all my levels in Logic, make sure I'm not clipping anything, and try and sort of enjoy myself from here, really, and just listen to the track, perhaps make some adjustments up here. It's pretty quiet for now, because the intro is only with stepped hi-hat, but I'm sure this is going to get heavier pretty quick, so here we go, let's have a listen. Those room mics are really going to sing. So the kick drum is a little bit hot. Maybe we're going to reduce the gain a little bit. So we're almost clipping on the kick out. So let's just, I don't actually mind the sound of these when they're pretty driven, so I'm just going to take the output down a little bit. That's looking better. Everything else is looking fine. Rock and roll, motherfucker. forget to vape on takes. Ridiculous. Nico's such a good drummer, man. I've got a feeling he's going to do this in one take. Amazing. We're going to need to do another one though, because I needed to adjust the gain slightly on the kick out. So we'll do one more take after this, and then I think we're probably going to have it. To stay hydrated. Very important when recording. Drink water. Or tea. Tea's good. Cool. Made a little bit of a mistake there, but it's all good. We're going to do another take anyway. Very nice. Song. One thing you've got to check as well between takes. Tuning. Sometimes you'll find if a drummer is, if he's playing rim shots, sometimes the lugs might come loose, or the bolts might come loose, so we might take a look at perhaps retuning the snare just between takes, just to make sure that we're getting a consistent sound throughout. I think you missed the bar there. It's all good though. It's all good. Like I said, first take is always just a bit of a run through, and I think Nico only actually learned this song today, so fair play to him. Yeah. We might need to drop in for that last section there. Fair play to him. He's doing a good job. Doing a really good job. Mate, nice one.
Right, a few mistakes here and there, but how does it sound?
It sounds amazing, man. I think you're doing a really good job.
Great, thank you.
You only learned this song today, right? Or a couple of days ago?
Yesterday, very quickly.
Amazing. Well, smashing it.
Sweet. You're just one thing worth noticing. I think your bass drum is moving a little bit.
Okay.
So I don't know if it's affecting the sound.
Okay. No, good shout. I'll come up and take a look at that right away.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's another thing as well, is you've got to look out for drums moving, all that kind of stuff. And having a drummer like Nico is really handy because he will tell you that kind of thing. So it is worth mentioning that to drummers when they come in, because sometimes you'll go in after 5 takes and you'll find that the kick drum is at the other side of the room. So we're just going to go and take a look at that right now. Okay, so we've just been up to the control room. The live room rather. We've made a few adjustments. The kick drum was moving a little bit, so we've just moved that back. Also, this snare has a tendency to fall out of tune, so we've just retuned that as well. And we're going to give it another go. So let's get Nico on the mic. You still with me, brother?
Hello, Finn.
How you doing, man? How you doing?
Yeah, very good. Could I get a little bit more click for the next take, please?
Of course you can, man. Not a problem.
Because he was getting lost a little bit in the loud bits.
Okay, cool. I'll just turn down the track another dB or two as well.
Okay.
So that should be all good. You still comfortable up there?
Very comfortable.
Great, man. So why don't you just let me know when you're ready, and we'll give it another go.
Yeah. I think you can start the song.
Sick.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Sweet.
Here we go. Okay, cool. So that was actually step 7 and 8 combined in one. Step 7 is processing, and I hope that gave you a good sort of insight as to how I like to process things on the way in. I could have done more, could have done less. It's sort of down to taste, really, but I think that was sort of the right amount for today. I actually didn't end up doing any processing with the talkback mic in the end, because I just liked the way it sounded as it is. I wanted to be able to do that later with maybe a distressor or something. And so, yeah, I guess that's another sort of lesson, is that it's a sort of fluid environment. Things change at the drop of the hat. Like when Nico said he wanted a different click, you just got to sort of be ready for these things. So yeah, processing. Step 8. This is my favorite step. And it's the shortest one. And it's also sort of the hardest to do. It's to have fun, man. Like, just have fun and enjoy yourself when you're doing this stuff. I know that sometimes when you're on sessions, you can run into problems and that can be frustrating, but it's all just about being prepared for everything. You've got to anticipate all these issues. You know, I wasn't expecting Nico to actually ask for that click, but I knew straight away that I can fix this. It's not a problem. And he was super happy with it. So yeah, just be prepared, have a vision, and enjoy yourself. That's why I do this, because I love it. I love this so much, and I could never have a real job. So yeah, I'm going to leave the video there. This has been a really long one. It's probably about an hour or so now. So if you made it all the way through, congrats. If you didn't, it's not too bad. But yeah, I think I'm going to be doing more of these videos. I kind of like the sort of podcast element to it. Everything's quite in depth, and it's just me, so I get to say whatever I want. So yeah, I just want to say thanks for getting involved and watching these videos. Thank you if you made it to the end, and I'd love to hear from you, whether that's suggestions on my next video, or maybe I should have used the phase on some of those channels. I don't know. I'd like to hear your feedback, and I'd like to hear your ideas too, and how you might have approached this recording. So yeah, thanks. I'll see you next time. Much love. Fucking soon.